And good evening and welcome to the Murfreesboro City School Board meeting for May the 9th. We're glad to have those of you that are in attendance with us tonight, and we're glad to have those of you that are at home watching on television. At this time, I'm going to ask you to please stand as we have Jaden Poe, a fourth grade student from Overall Creek, along with Reagan Turnbow, a third grade student from Discovery School, to lead us in our pledge, followed then by our moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now our moment of silence. Thank you. Members of the board, you've had an opportunity to look at the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. King. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Communications?
Yes, the first communication that you have has to do with the Feed the Children teacher store. This is a store that's in Laverne, and our teachers can go there and get paper and all kinds of materials. In fact, they have a good time there. But it will be open. This is to announce that it will be open next year. It will be open from 2:30 to 4:45 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so teachers look forward to shopping next year there once a month. Also, I'd like to thank the board on behalf of the teachers and staff for the bagels that were delivered today. I know that they were a big hit at the central office. The teachers that were in service were coming across the hallway to get them, so a great way to have a celebration for Teacher Appreciation Week. Congratulations to the following BEP, that's the Business Education Partnership Grant recipients, Ty Batt and Debbie Hickerson. They write a grant almost every year and get them, so they did again this year, so congratulations to Ty and to Debbie. Case and Lane Academy, their grants were Global Thinkers and also Artists and Arthropods. Anita Morton from Mitchell Nelson had a grant that she received that's called Going Beyond the Lens. Shannon Minner, who is from Reese Rogers, had a grant that is called Robotics, Programming, and Math with Ozobots. And you will be seeing a lot of Ozobots and robotics and spheros because we're really moving forward with that. So congratulations to those teachers. Also, congratulations to Mary Lee Smith. Mary Lee was selected as the Mid-Cumberland Regional Coordinator of the Year for Coordinated School Health, and we celebrated her last week at the state meeting of Coordinated School Health, so certainly well deserved. So congratulations, Mary Lee. Also, we have learned that Tammy Garrett, Dr. Tammy Garrett, has been selected as District 12 from Mid-Cumberland as Principal of the Year. So I think it's pretty cool that we had Principal of the Year last year, and now we've had another Principal of the Year this year. So congratulations to Tammy. And finally, Board, I would like to for you to look at your calendars. You had discussed at our budget hearings that you would like to have some town hall meetings for input on the strategic plan. We will be developing a new strategic plan that will run from 2018 for 5 years, if you want 5 or if you want 3, but a new strategic plan. So we're looking at next school year perhaps having cluster meetings on the third Tuesday of the month, and I'm proposing that we have them on August the 15th at Overall Creek for the Overall Creek and Scales and Case and Lane cluster at 6:30 on August the 15th. September 19th at Mitchell Nelson for the Mitchell Nelson, Northfield, Ermasigal, and John Pittard cluster. And then August the 17th at Hobgood for the Black Fox, Discovery, Reeves, Hobgood, and Bradley cluster. And we may want to see how the first one goes, and we may want to divide those others up, but I'll send you those dates. So right now we're looking at the third Tuesday in August, in September, and in October. Okay. And I will get you those dates and those times to make sure that they work for you. and we'll get the publicity out about that this summer. But I think that will be a good opportunity for us to get the opinion of the community on what they would like to see as far as priorities for the school district. And those are your communications.
Where was the location in October, please?
The one in October is at Hobgood.
Okay.
The one at September at Mitchell Nelson, and the one in August at Overall. I have checked with those principals and asked them to reserve those dates. This certainly is tentative for those dates. We can see how it goes, but I wanted to go ahead and get that on your calendar, and if you'd give me feedback about that, that would be great.
All at 6:30?
Thank you, ma'am, very much. Sounds like a great idea. All right. Consent items. I have a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Any question or discussion? Ms. Rainier?
I had a question on one of them that was listed just as MCS, and it had no number of students or from which school they're coming from. It just said Tennessee Political Process. What is that about? Does anybody know?
Okay, let me take a look at that. I know what that is. You'll remember that our Leadership Academy, our Youth Leadership Academy, they went on Monday, as a matter of fact, to the Capitol.
Oh, okay.
And so that is what that is.
On Twitter.
Pardon?
I saw a picture of that.
Yes, they had a great time. They were able to go to the Lieutenant Governor's office, I think, and
He said it is taking desk. Yeah.
right. So they had a great time. But that's what that is, Ms. Rainier.
Okay, thank you.
And we're about to crank up another Leadership Academy, as a matter of fact. So that's a good thing.
We have the motion.
We have a motion. Okay. Thank you. All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Action items?
Your action item, you have already approved a wellness policy, but we have new guidelines for the wellness policy. So you have before you the current version, and then you have the version which we feel will meet the muster of what the state wants now. It's more detailed, spells out more about the coordinated school health and the Health Advisory Council, specifics about nutrition. You'll notice that there are several times in there where it says should instead of must, and I thought that was important to give leeway to our schools. Physical activity is another section. Curriculum, which has to do with the health curriculum standards. The school health index, monitoring and policy review, and then public participation. So this is a more detailed policy. You will remember that we had the current policy is detailed, but it's not as detailed as this particular policy. So this is the one that we feel that we're going to have with the new rules and regs that have come down for the expectations of the policy. And if you have any questions about this, I'm going to turn it over to Gary Anderson.
Any questions on the policy? Ms. Rainier?
My first question is, do we know anything with the new Secretary of Education or whatever as far as free and reduced lunches? Will we be able to continue on the grant that we have?
My understanding is at this point we'll be able to continue at least this next year.
Okay.
But I don't think they have finalized anything yet in Washington.
Okay, good. Then I have some other questions. On line 11, on the new revised policy, it talks about triennial assessments here and also at I think the very last paragraph, but this one talks about they're made available to the public. Does that mean just kind of an overall 90% of our children can do a minute of jumping jacks kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not anything
Right.
that
No, it wouldn't
identifies-
violate HIPAA.
Okay, that's good. Lines 28 to 30. District will promote healthy nutrition through various activities, which may include informational, It will be offered as a standards-based program. Who's going to teach that? Where does
That really has to do with what we're already doing. This would be included in the health curriculum, and so when you're thinking about the standards base, we're talking about the really the health standards and healthy eating, those kinds of things.
Basically healthy eating and not so much, we've got to take
Right.
20 minutes each day for
Right.
health. Okay.
Now, they haven't done that yet, so,
Okay, well, okay.
Don't say it too loud.
I know.
39 to 40, we're talking about the special programs, and I think that they should be spelled out as far as NSLP and SBP, because I don't even know what those are.
Okay.
What are they?
Yeah, what are they?
Those are your national school lunch
School lunch
programs? Is that
Oh,
what that
National
is?
School Lunch Program, and what's SBP?
Say, which ones?
The second one, SBP? School-based protein. School-based program.
I'm sorry, what line are you on?
39.
39.
Based potatoes.
We'll figure it out and we'll fix it, right? Okay. 58. That's when we get into the celebrations.
Right, and that's why we have up there in 55, that word encourage.
Right. That's what I had down here. Does encourage mean they have to follow that to the letter? Thank goodness, because they like chips and Coke once in a while. All right, and then that's what I had there. And again, triennial was just at the end, and yes, okay, that's all I had.
Now, 58, it just says we're discouraging it. It doesn't
Right.
mean that
Right.
it cannot be done according to
Okay.
that.
But I want the teachers to know that.
Well, and that's really, as far as I know, that's really a site-based decision. I know there has been some discussion of that, and there may be some discussion of that, but if there is, it will come through principals' meetings.
Mr. Smith?
So line 59, underneath the restaurant food part, is food may not be used for punishment or reward. A popsicle, like, I mean, I'm just trying
Well,
to,
that's the reason that you have, if you look in line 55, that's the reason that's worded that way.
Encourage.
encourage.
Right.
See, I see like on 58, it says are discouraged. Okay, I mean, I know what you mean, but it's,
Okay.
on that particular line, it might need to loosen up, just discourage from being a punishment or reward versus, I'm not sure if I necessarily feel completely like we have to follow this anyway?
It's about as loose as we can get it. We had quite a discussion about that. And so when you look at that, in line 55, talking about encourage that all schools offered will meet the following standards, that's the reason that we have that listed like that, is because those really are standards, but that it really could be a lot stiffer than what it is. And like I said, we had quite a bit of discussion between coordinated school health and nutrition about
I think
that.
it's kind of covered with line 54 because it's celebrations that involve food should take place outside of scheduled lunch hours. So that would lead to
Right, and that has to happen.
classrooms and therefore be encouraged to do this, but it's okay if you kind of don't.
Well, if mother wanted to bring cupcakes, it doesn't say she cannot do it.
Right,
It just says it's discouraged.
right.
Mr. Anderson?
The SBP is School Breakfast Program.
There you go.
Makes sense.
Any other questions on the policy?
I have one.
Mr. Ballard?
Yeah, again, talking about the reward, does that mean that if a teacher has a reward program for good behavior, let's say, and at the end of the month they get they get brownies or a pizza in the classroom, is that saying that's discouraged?
It says that well, first of all, it says it has to happen outside of the lunchtime. And the preference would be for fresh fruits, vegetables, but there is nothing that says that they can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's purposefully written that way so that there's leeway with that. I think the federal government would be very happy if we had it where it said that we cannot, but we're not there yet.
It just seems a little ambiguous because, to me anyway, because like if I'm discouraged to do something in my work, then I'm not going to do it.
Well,
know,
in this case, I think the ambiguity is better than the saying no.
Yeah. So, okay. I just wouldn't want someone to be inhibited by doing something that was totally worthy.
Right.
You know, because the word discouraged was in there. And if that's what we have to do, I guess we have to do it, but yeah. Okay, when I say that, we have to do it. We have to do
Yeah,
that
we do.
because that's the state.
And I'll actually get you a copy of the law so you can take a look at it.
Yeah, because
And I think it'll help. It's pretty
It's all
thick, but
referenced at the bottom.
okay, thank
I think you'll be happier with what we did after you see
Ms. Smith?
what the choices could have been.
It still says may not be used, even if it's in that line. I mean, it says food. I know it's up there about, we encourage that all foods offered on the school campus meet the following standards. We encourage that, but may not be used just makes it a rule.
Can we
All right,
eliminate that
let
one?
me see, and if we can change that to are discouraged from,
Yeah, just like
Then-
the line above
Right.
makes it a little,
Or discouraged?
Yes,
yeah,
or delete the line.
okay.
Now, question. Okay, I want to reward my class with pizza. If I have the pizza made, it comes from the cafeteria, it's going to be okay because it's not outside foods. Am I right?
It depends on what time of day you're doing. Is it to
Well,
replace?
it's not during lunchtime, it's after lunch. So at 2 o'clock, if we want to have a pizza party, and I can get it through the cafeteria, then I'm okay. It's just, we can't bring in commercial pizza.
The pizza you get from the cafeteria is going to fit all the National School Lunch Program qualifications. This is a wellness policy that is been tied to the USDA requirements, and they're discouraging using food as the reward, but they don't unequivocally say no.
Oh, okay. Mr. King?
I guess would an example of punishment or reward be half the class earned the pizza party, but the other half didn't and had to eat hot dogs instead? Something like that, burgers and hot dogs. And that, to me, would be punishment reward, you
Yeah.
know, where you didn't meet a standard and you got to eat the lesser food. I could see that. But
Well,
I also see the meaning of not using food as a reward.
Okay. Ms. Smith,
oh, I'm sorry.
question?
No.
Okay. Anybody else have a question or a comment? All right, do we have a motion to approve? I'm sorry, Mr. King?
On line 48, during the school day, all foods and beverages sold to students. I mean, I'm assuming these are foods and beverages made available for purchase to students, correct? That they could purchase this in addition to whatever the school is offering.
Right,
A la carte items.
Am I understanding that correctly?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In other words, your vending machines would have to
That's
be
what I thought.
a fruit
I
drink.
thought, sold to students.
We don't
student.
have vending machines in our schools,
But
correct?
we do have a la carte. When
Yeah.
you go through the cafeteria line, you can purchase,
Something extra or different.
yeah, the stuff that's like,
Yeah.
right, what I would call an extra.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? We have a motion to approve the policy?
I move that we approve it with that
Right.
one change, or discouraged instead of may not in line 59.
Okay. Have a second to the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you.
Thank you. And I hope we don't have to bring it to you again in another month, but we never know. You have, Gary, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, we have a few budget amendments for the current operating budget that we're in right now. As you know, this is housekeeping we do every year. during the year. We have to have it done officially before June 30th. The amendments are there on the first 4 pages. We're going to have to do multiple votes because there's different things here. But the first 4 pages would be one vote to adjust our budgets. What the law says is you cannot spend more than has been approved through the budget document. It doesn't account for additional revenues that come in. It just says you can't exceed that budget line item. So what you have here is the housekeeping on those, adding the amount needed to cover the expenditure side. Like I said, it doesn't even account for any additional revenue side. It's just they focus on the expense side and what's approved. So these are housekeeping. We do this every year. It's just to make sure that we're in compliance of the state laws. So we're asking for a motion to approve these budget amendments to the 2016-17 budget.
All 4 pages at once?
The 4, yeah, they're all together. These are all for general purpose budget.
Okay. It seems we've gone up quite a bit on these. Is it more so than in the past?
There's some that have got some particular categories, but we have additional revenues. We got additional grants to cover things. We had things that were in one line item more on the expenditure, but less on the other line item. But it just says not to exceed, so we have to do the ones not to exceed.
Gary, what is the first item from cash included in fund balance? Can you
That's
explain
where you
that?
get the offsetting fund to show that if it's an expenditure, we have to offset it with a revenue, and so the money comes out of the fund balance account to cover the expenditures that are listed.
So is this a zero-sum impact then? We have the revenue to cover it?
Yes, what it is, it just says you're not going to spend more than X amount of dollars, and to cover that, you take it out of your fund balance amount.
Okay, so when I look at the 16-17 budget and it has 69 million total, we're not exceeding 69 million.
Yes, we will on the expenditure side, but the overall amount either can or may not, either one. It's just that these are saying that these particular line items have gone up. Some examples are when you're doing custodial services, and one line item for substitutes, we use some from from a provider to provide the employees, but then the line item to pay our own employees drops, it offsets it. So those factors are not in here. That's why this document is confusing in that the way the state wants it laid out.
Okay.
We have a motion to approve the amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Baird moved and Mr. Settle second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. All right.
Okay, the next one, the 5th page, is for the extended school program budget amendments. They had some extra expenditures on salaries and wages. It ends up being a few employees when they had extra actual kids in the program. They needed extra staff members, and this one also is offsetting. It's not much money involved in this one, but it's the same thing. They have the revenues to cover this, and it comes out of their fund balance as well.
Up here. Oh, yeah.
So it's a one-page document.
Have a motion to approve.
I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Settles. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Renier. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? And there is none. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is what's called Debt Service Fund, and this is for the 17-18 budget. It's not for the one we're in now, it's for next year. This is a city document, and it has to be approved by the board. Last year, if you remember, we brought this to you. It doesn't impact us in any way or form or fashion because it's part of the overall city finances. The item on on line item number 3, that the third number over 822,909, that is the amount that's going to in our budget document for 17-18. Remember, I told you the city hadn't given us all the information yet? Well, this is part of it, and you'll have another one here in a minute to approve. That's another part of it. But this is the one that the city requires to be for their financials.
Have a motion to approve the amendment?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. King. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you.
All right, the next set of documents are items that have to be approved. They're federal program documents or state documents. They're not part of our general purpose budget. These have to be approved before June 30th to be in our budget. The interesting thing about this is we're going to have to bring you a budget amendment because these are numbers that we don't have from the state yet. So what we have to do, and every district has to do this, is we have to lay out the plan, and it's called E-Plan. And so we're saying this is what the estimate we've been given, and this is how we're going to expend it line item by line item in these. So you have your title budget, you have your IDEA budget, you have your pre-K budgets in Title III, IDEA, and so all these are here laid out for you to see. But like I said, we're going to have to bring it back to you again to be approved later because it doesn't really come to us until October. So this is the estimate. Now, the white pages, just plain white pages beyond that, where it's just a typed out list, the state hasn't even got us set up an E-Plan yet. So we just gave it to you in the typed format.
Okay.
And that you can see they are the Coordinated School Health, the Math and Science Partnership, and the Bradley Arts Grant. We could not even enter those into E-Plan yet because it's not online yet. So these are all grant funds. They're not part of your general purpose. These are part of your federal and state program funds. So we're looking for a motion on these, and like I said, we will be coming back to you again in October with the final documents.
You got yours.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
All right, sir.
Did he purposely put these sideways to make Nancy have to go like this?
Right.
Lisa, did you do that?
All right, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Okay, all right. Come on.
Okay.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? There is none. Thank you.
Okay, the last page is the 17-18 budget amendment expenditures on other uses and transfers. This is for the budget coming up. This document, the total amount of change is $91,232, and what that is for is the energy loans that we reimburse the city for. We didn't have this information when we developed your budget. We just got it from the city, and so we need to approve this to put in your operating budget for next year, the 17-18 year. So we need a motion to add this one to your budget now that they've given us the most current number.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. King. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the approval of Irma Siegel Chiller. I don't believe there has any documentation on there, is there?
No.
Okay. Let me explain what that one is about. We replaced the chillers, remember a couple years ago at Northfield.
Yes.
We replaced the chillers this past summer at Cason Lane and Black Fox. The upgraded chillers have reduced our energy consumption drastically. The city saw that. The city currently has a contract with ESG, the same company that did our work before, and they made a change order to their document to do our chiller this summer. Instead of us, I was going to go and try to get a contract. It would be another months. Well, they said, we'll do it for you, but you'll need to reimburse us for the chiller amount. Well, it pays for itself, so it's worth it. The city has already approved this, but the board our board needs to approve it as well to say, yep, we're okay, great, go for it, and we'll reimburse it. In my opinion of working with these, now they are bearingless, meaning there's no bearings in them. They're a magnetic, and they are so much more efficient. It cut our bills where Cason Lane was our biggest energy user. Now Irma Siegel is. And Irma Siegel used to not be the biggest energy user. So it's really interesting to see the impact these energy savings have on us. So the city was kind enough to go ahead and process this and get it in their system and run it through theirs. And of course, we need to reimburse them for the savings because we'll be the beneficiary of the savings. So we're asking for approval of allowing the city to include it in their contract with ESG, which they've already said yes.
Mr. Barrett?
So you said this was a pretty big energy hog. Do we have any other chillers that are pretty big energy hogs?
The 4 schools that were of the same, what I call generation, were Black Fox, Northfield, Cason Lane, and Siegel. Siegel's the last one of that group. The next one is going to be Scales.
Okay.
That's the next one in the group, but it's, 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
And so that's the next one that we're going to hit.
Okay, thanks.
And then that finishes that era of chillers.
Do the others actually have chillers, or do they have different systems?
Which ones?
The next generation?
No, they're geothermal after this.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Scales was the last school built with a chiller, which is called a 4-pipe HVAC system. It's the last one, and after that, it's geothermal.
So there shouldn't be any kind of excruciating number on those things, right?
Not on the geothermals?
Geothermal.
No,
That's what
there
I
shouldn't be. What we're going to be looking at is going into the schools that have the through-the-wall units, HVAC, the ones that just make loud noise and
Yeah.
just blow the air like a window air conditioner. That's where I want to attack next and try to replace those. We did that at we did it at Reeves Rogers, we did it at Discovery, we did it at Hobgood.
Good.
All right, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Have a second?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? And there is none. Thank you very much.
Enrollment, Gary?
Enrollment numbers are, we're up 189 over last year. We still didn't make the cutoff mark with the state to get growth funds, but I've got some news to give you here in just a minute. Our attendance percentage went up to 96%, so we're back up. Kids are back being healthy, getting over all the illness things. Our pupil-teacher ratio in K3 is 19.37, and 4 through 6 is 21.67. So we have increased quite a bit the last 2 accounting periods, so we're real glad about that. The news that has come to us through our meetings that I attended right before the last board meeting is that the state is going to provide growth for every district, no matter 1% or less. And so I've got to go back, recalculate that for you to change our BEP number, which that's why I say we're going to have to bring you back more amendments to the budget process. So that'll be helpful to us to be able to add those particular revenue numbers back into the mix. So that's our enrollment report. It's picking up. Our kindergarten pre-enrollment is looking very strong right now for next year. Yeah. So we're glad to see that as well.
Mr. Saddles?
My question was, and I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but was there a reason that they just did the growth for everybody?
Yes, the state, I'll give you a brief history. The state was up around $30 million for growth dollars during a school year. Well, over the years, they dropped it. They dropped it a year ago down to $10 million, and they upped the percentage you had to have to get it. Last year, they went to $19 million, and now they're going to $37 million growth, which means they said, we've calculated we can give every district their growth. Because if you grew 0.8%, and we're a pretty big district, you got no money for that at all. So now they're recognizing at least that, hey, we need to provide some growth what they grow during the year. And so we're a growing district. Rutherford County is a growing district. So we'll all be now getting that. The thing, we don't know yet the mix of what it's going to be because we don't know who else is going to grow. But, we're going to grow. Other districts around us will grow. But they took that number and they based it on all the growth this year in the state and divided it up and said, okay, forget the 1%, let's give it for everybody who actually grows during the year. So that's why they upped the amount almost $20 million.
That's good.
Mr. Ballard?
Does have you taken inventory of the fifth graders that will be moving to the county in the sixth grade? Do we know what that impact is going to be at this point?
Our principals right now are doing intent to return, and so I don't have all those numbers in yet, but we'll know much better here in the next, before school's out. We'll know where they're going to be. And even then, we're not 100% sure because they can change their minds about moving on for sixth grade. But we've really encouraged them to keep our sixth graders engaged with our schools.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other business to come before the board tonight? Mr. Ringstaff, I'd like to ask you a question. How many retirees did we have with the incentive program?
I think we had about 10 to 12 off the top of my head. I didn't bring that information with me. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Was the decision made to include those who left earlier in the year? For instance, I know someone who left because her mother was very ill, like maybe 4 months ago or something.
We're trying to check and see what we did in 2011. Right now, we cannot find anything that we did that.
I think we covered them.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I thought we covered them. We could find somebody who retired then and ask them, I guess. I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ringstaff. I noticed that when we were going over the figures for this year's budget, the difference in the amount of money for substitute teachers was $81,000 over what we had budgeted. Is there any way, I know at one point in time you really surprised me with the number of teacher absentees per month or per day or whatever month it was. Is there any way you could, just send us an email that lets us know how that played out?
Yes, ma'am. We can break it down any way you want to.
Okay.
Personal days, sick days, anything that you want.
Well, basically it's absentees, how many that constitute $81,000?
Yes, ma'am. We can do that.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Smith?
I wanted to get an update on the Tea and Ready.
We're finished.
How did the process go? Do we think any?
Joe, do you want to report on that? You've been closer to that. I will update you a little bit about the portfolio. We have received some additional information. We still will not know until the middle of July what the rubric looks like, but we're doing what we can to prepare teachers for that. So I think we'll be okay. I think we're going to be in the same ship everybody else is in as far as knowing what that's going to look like next year. That will be the major change I think that we'll see in the districts across the state. Will be preparation for the pre-K and K portfolio. But Joe, what about testing?
I don't think it is what it is. It's a big task. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, causes a lot of anxiety for students and teachers and parents. But all in all, I think it went well as far as what we expected. There were no big surprises. There were no big failures. The pencil and paper worked fine as compared to the electronic version. And the process then, is a matter of getting it all back together. And it's sitting in the warehouse. I think it'll be picked up tomorrow. That was a big job of just, gathering it all up and getting it back. But all in all, to be what it is, I think it went well. That's real.
So the score, they will or will not be included in this report card?
Well, I think we discussed that in the last board meeting, and our guess is that they're not going to be back in time in order to be put in the report card. That's our best guess.
I knew that was the guess the last time. I just didn't know.
Yeah, no news about that. Well, what we have to look at is how quickly the state can get things done. Mm-hmm. And if you base it on, and I'm not trying to beat up the state or anything, or the process, but it's a huge process to get everything back. So we're assuming and guessing that that won't be included in the report card just because of the timelines.
Right.
Ms. Ranier?
Were the allotted time per test, was it different than what it may have been in the past? Because comments I heard were that students didn't have enough time to finish particular tests.
Well, there will always be students that don't finish.
Well, I know
and there will be
that.
those who finish way too early. But I think what the state did this time is looked at, they did reduce some time because that had been an outcry that we were spending too much time on testing, and so they reduced some of the times. So I don't know that students, like I said, I think there will always be students who don't have enough time, and then there will always be the others who finish way too early, and you think, please take more time. But so I think it's probably, and I haven't heard direct feedback from teachers regarding that.
You have not?
No, I mean, Lori probably has. Lori Offit is in charge of testing, and she's been in the building. She's been picking up the tests. She's been, working with the assistant principals in each building are the ones who actually take, the lead on getting all that done. She has feedback from them, but I couldn't tell you exactly. But my guess is that those students, there are just going to be some that are very conscientious, and it takes a long time.
And I don't know whether you want, Don, I don't know whether you want, Don, do you have anything to add about that since you're, since you're in the building?
Ms. Renier, to answer your question, there was some feedback that I got from teachers on math.
Yes, that's what I heard about.
Okay, that's just to be honest with you, that's what. As far as the other tests, it was good. They were acceptable, and there were shorter times, fewer questions. And then, Ms. Smith, one of the things that's different with this test versus TCAP in the past, there is a book for every subject. So each one of those has to be scored, whereas in the old days, well, not even old days, a few years ago, it was all one book, got it all scored, all subjects. So there was a writing, there was a reading, there was a math, there was a science, and there was a social studies. So, for example, at our schools where we tested 450 kids, it took Mr. Torres a room about the size of this right here to prep and lay out with all of those books.
So did they fill out the book, or did they still have an answer sheet?
Depending on the grade. Third grade answered in the book. Fourth, fifth, and sixth answered on answer documents.
Because last year that was what was one of the issues, was that the like page numbers and the sheets and all that didn't match up. But I have not. I heard the same thing about the time, like that. Several of all different ages mentioned about some time issues, but no like really negative comments.
No,
like last year.
I agree.
Goodness.
Correct. Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Mr. Settles?
Yeah, I want to apologize for running late, but I was coming back from Jackson from TSBA training, and we hit traffic. So what's going on Manson Pike? That's
Manson Pike?
Yeah, I thought maybe you would know because it's backed up.
Strawberry Patch is open, I guess.
The traffic going out medical. Well, Bill Shacklet is here. I shouldn't let him tackle that. The traffic going.
Well, they're going to put a traffic light at Medical Center and Gateway, and that'll help you.
Yeah. Are they really?
That'll won't it, Bill? That'll expedite traffic. No, where you're coming off.
I think it's time to widen the road already out there.
We have traffic problems in Murphy?
Just a little bit. It's growing pains, I like to call it.
All right, anything else, Ms. Smith?
I'm sure all of us have been getting some letters and phone calls from our parents about the bell times. And honestly, we don't get a lot of phone calls and letters from parents regarding Discovery School having a change of the bell time. And I appreciate that parents are so interested in being involved and value their input. And I just, I know it's an administrative decision, and but I do appreciate, because we need to be in the loop. This board, if you didn't send letters, we may not have known that parents were concerned about these changes. So I just want to say that we appreciate that. And if Dr. Gilbert wants to tell about what the procedure is about bell times, that would be helpful. But that I do want to say thank you. And if you have other issues that come up, that whether it is an administrative decision or a policy decision, I think it's really important for us to get that input from our parents. And I actually have even heard that some of the children are trying to follow the same process. We have, and I don't know if Mr. Shacklett's been involved with this, but over 150 parents and grandparents have signed a petition involving the bell times at Discovery School. So anyway, if you...
I really don't have anything to add. I think that we appreciate the input on parents on that.
I'm debating on whether I want to add to it or not. I will say this, and I know it has been a topic, and I also know that some of the information that I've been sent by parents is not factual. And I would wish that parents would know what they're talking about and have the facts before they make accusations. And that's all I'm going to say. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Thank you and good night.